Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, feely humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and today is episode 94 with my guest, Eric efdot Friedensohn. You can find Eric on Instagram at efdot. It's EFDOT, or at efdotstudio.com. Today on the show, we talk about skateboarding culture and finding work that aligns with who you are and creating art that brings people together and helps people feel understood and seen. Eric is a sweetie pie, and I enjoyed talking with him, and I think you'll enjoy this conversation. Before we get to the episode, though, please give You, Me, Empathy a follow on Instagram and Twitter at You, Me, Empathy. We have a Patreon page. It's at patreon.com/YouMeEmpathy. You can support the show there. A free way to support the show is leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. I love 5 stars, but be honest and write a review. I'd love to hear what you think of the show. Helps out the show, and I would be forever honored and grateful if you left a review that maybe references how great this show is and how much it touched your life. But, speak from the heart. I love you. What else? Let's see. Yes. So, we're doing a 100th episode celebration. We'll be at 100 episodes in just 6 episodes, which is bonkers. But thus far, as of this recording, I've only received 1 of your stories. So the 100th episode celebration is celebrating 100 episodes, but it's also including you and your stories. So if you go to Instagram at YouMeEmpathy, you'll see a couple of posts there about the 100th episode bash and how you can participate. So please do that and send me your stories. I want to hear from you, and I want to celebrate you and include you in episode 100. Okay. I think that's it. I love you, and I appreciate you. I'm so happy you're here. We're creating a safe space for feely humans to be who they are and to be seen and understood, just as Eric and his art helps people feel seen and understood. So, let's get to it. This is Eric efdot Friedensohn in episode 94.
La 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 la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am doing joyful varial kickflips with skateboarder, artist, muralist, and human connector, Eric efdot Friedensohn. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how's it going, Known?
It's going well. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I'm excited to chat with you.
Of course. So you and I have, I grew up riding skateboards, and I maybe from the age of like 10 to like through 22 or something, I skated. I love skateboarding, so you're a man after my own heart.
Was that your favorite trick, the varial kickflips?
I do love that. I don't think I can. I could probably still do one of those, but I did enjoy that. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's longer than I thought you were skating. I thought you only skated for a few years, but that's like 12 years.
Yeah, it was a while. I loved it. You know what? And let's just get into it now. Like the thing I love about skateboarding is, well, first of all, it got me out of the house, and so that was always a sort of positive. And the second thing is its sort of roots in sort of the punk rock, sort of counterculture, fuck the man sort of ethos, and that's kind of why, sort of got me into it as a teenager. I don't know if you can relate to that at all.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been skateboarding?
Yeah. I guess it's been about 16 years.
Okay. Wow.
But I had a couple of years where I couldn't skate because of an injury.
Oh yeah.
So minus 2, 14 years.
That's right. So when you first got into it, was there people around you saying don't do it? Was it kind of like a safe environment to kind of just go do your thing?
Back when I first got into it, I guess I was 12 years old, and my brother had been given a skateboard a couple of years prior to that, a crappy Toys R Us skateboard.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't really use it, and I just saw it in the garage, and then I saw some kids skating in town. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, seeing those kids skate. And once I started picking it up and trying it out, and I was very bad at it, very clumsy. I didn't have much raw talent at it.
Sure.
I was falling and scraping my knees and elbows all the time, and my parents were a little bit wary of, oh no, like, is he going to get hurt doing this? Is it safe? It's also like, it's frowned upon if it's a form of vandalism in a lot of people's eyes.
Right.
Because it's noisy and you're grinding on the ledges, it's damaging the property. So I wouldn't say that it was encouraging everywhere, but my parents didn't tell me like, you can't skate. They just said, you got to wear your pads, you got to wear your helmet. I remember one time I actually faked an injury because I didn't want to wear my pads. I just said, hey mom, like I fell on my chin and it's all because of the wrist guards. Like I couldn't catch myself. I just like slipped out and took a face plant. But in reality, I had actually rubbed the grip tape of my skateboard on my face to make it look like I was bleeding.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do remember like there was a time, I grew up in Southern California, and there was a time where in my late teens or it was around there, like the cities started putting on like, little metal pieces where you can't grind ledges, or, they just basically just made it not very fun for us skateboarders.
Yeah, the skate stoppers.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm always fascinated when I encounter skateboarders, especially, grown adult skateboarders. I don't encounter them as much as I used to. And I think I'm drawn to skateboarders because of that whole sort of ethos. So as a skateboarder now, like what does it give you? What is it? How does it fill you up? Like what aspect of it does it sort of kind of fill your heart? Because for me, it's I'm living on dirt roads, but so it's not very conducive to skateboarding. But like for me, it's like I go back to it because of that sort of punk rock ethos. Yeah,
I don't think I go back to it for that reason. It's more closer to meditation than anything else. And it's exercise, it's meditation, it's a way for me to push myself and be creative and expressive in a completely different way than what I do for my work. Because even though I'm an artist and a designer and it is very expressive, it still can turn into feeling like a job sometimes.
Sure.
And I've never pushed skateboarding in that direction to make it feel like a job. Never. I mean, maybe when I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional skateboarder, But once I found what I really love to do in art and design, I didn't really go after trying to be a professional skateboarder anymore. And I think if I did, it would have had the same effect. It would have started feeling like a job.
Oh, interesting.
So I keep
Yeah.
that sacred. I keep that sacred.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. No, I like that. That makes total sense to me. It's safe from the grind of sometimes work can be, even if it's work that we truly love. It's separate from that, and I think running, and hiking nowadays, that's kind of the sacred space for me, the meditative sort of exercise. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it also makes me feel like a kid again, just exploring and looking at
Yes.
architecture in a different way and getting into a little bit of trouble and like doing things that you're not supposed to do, like getting into, I don't know. I skate a lot at skate parks. I live around the corner from a little DIY skate park.
Nice.
And I also just use it for transportation. And then every week or two, I'll go out with some friends and actually have like a really good session. But yeah, it definitely brings me back to when I was a kid. And I always want to keep that part of myself alive because that does really feed back into other areas of my life, including work. So it's important to me for sure.
Yeah, I do. I love that. I do think it's I think it is important to kind of connect to our sort of childlike antics and childlike whims and joys that we experience as children, because there is an innocence to that. There is like this unadulterated sort of, removed from the bullshit of the corporate structures. There's just this unadulterated joy about it that I think is good to hold on to.
Yeah, exactly. There's no rules. There's no score like most other sports. There's no teams. It's really just you doing you.
Yeah, I love that. So how, like you said, like skateboarding sort of ties into your work in what way?
Well, for the longest time, I didn't want to bring skateboarding into my work because I thought it would make me look unprofessional. I studied graphic design as a way to take my art and make it marketable, make it into a career. I wasn't really interested in going the gallery route of just making a bunch of stuff and trying to get people to buy it. I was interested in graphic design because I could actually use art in a commercial way to solve problems and help people accomplish things and make an impact. I'm still interested in both sides of it, but when I was deciding what to study in undergraduate degree, I decided graphic design, and I was looking up to all of these professional graphic designers in the branding world or in the packaging design or photography, whatever. And I just saw this image of what a professional designer was, and skateboarding didn't really fit into that for me for some reason. And it took me until about 4 years ago for me to really start embracing it again in my work. Because when I was a kid, I loved making skateboard themed art or tying it in. Mm-hmm. But then when I went to college, I think I had this distorted perspective of what a professional designer looked like, and that you couldn't show all your quirks and your weirdness because, well, I think we look up to these people who do show their quirks and their weirdness, but those are the people who are already successful.
They're the exception to the rule or something.
Or it seems like that. I'm not sure if it's an exception or a rule or both, but yeah. I think we look up to those people who are succeeding and also being their weird selves. But there's also a ton of people who are being their weird selves and are not in the spotlight, right? And we're afraid that if we show our quirks and our weird side, or that it might rub some people the wrong way, and it would inhibit us from becoming more successful or like accomplishing our goals. But after I broke my leg 4 years ago, I had a lot of time to think about this stuff and which direction I wanted to take my work in. Didn't have much of a social life because I was living up on a 4th floor walk-up apartment. Right. So it took a lot for me to want to go downstairs and leave the apartment. So there were like weeks at a time that I wouldn't leave, and it was pretty unhealthy at the time.
Sure.
But I recovered, and it was a long recovery. It wasn't just a simple broken leg. I had like a few surgeries as well. And I had bought an iPad at the time to start illustrating digitally, like directly from my brain to the iPad. It wasn't like drawing on paper and then scanning it like I used to do. So I made a whole series sort of channeling that energy and that frustration that I had when I was recovering into a series of illustrations about skateboarding. And it wasn't intuitive. Like I got some advice from people, and they were telling me like, where is that? Like put that into your work. And that was when it kind of changed for me.
Yeah, that had to have been pretty validating, because I get the feeling that I think we all sort of get caught up in, should we do this? We see how people operate, and we compare, or we just kind of we make suppositions about how they got to where they got there, and then we, either consciously or subconsciously, like, buy into the myth of like what success means, right? And what uniqueness means. And it's all fluid, and it's all like, that's the beauty of like someone like you, like doing it and being yourself in your art, is like, you're saying, this is who I am. And like, that is the aim, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's the kind of clients I want to work with too. When I don't want to work with just anybody. I want to work with somebody who really aligns with my values and what I stand for and what I'm interested in. Ideally,
Yeah.
So I think the more you hide your unique things about yourself, the harder it is to get that kind of work that lines up with who you are. Because if you're not putting it out there, it's like people don't know that that's what you want to be hired for.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you're hired for something maybe that's not sort of aligned with who you are. And you're not in that space, so you're not really exploring who you are.
Right. And then after many years of that kind of soul-sucking work, it can just lead to burnout, and then you feel like you got to switch careers completely. I've seen people who do that generic graphic design work. A lot of people who went to school with me, they didn't do a lot of stuff outside of their day job. They didn't have many personal projects. And now they're feeling like, a lot of them are feeling really burnt out on it, because they have to now start to discover, like, what is the work that I want to make? And I feel like I got really lucky in a sense. There were like a few mentors in my life that were doing that. They were just professionally being themselves. And I would just ask them so many questions about everything that they made. And a lot of it just came down to intuition. But I think it's about taking that step in an uncomfortable direction. Even like in the beginning, it feels uncomfortable, but once you start to gain progress in a direction, you have to have faith in yourself.
Yeah. Did you grow up in an environment that was artistic and supportive in that way?
I did. I'm the only artist in my family besides my grandmother, and she was a stained glass artist.
Oh, that's neat.
Really fascinating to me as a kid, getting to see her work. I didn't really appreciate it fully until I was in my late teens, and she was sort of stopping to do it at that point because she was getting really old, and it wasn't easy for her to do anymore. But she did all kinds of different art too. She did watercolor, she did like needlepoint, but her main thing was stained glass. And I remember she had like a photo album of her best stained glass pieces, and the way she got work was she would just walk around the neighborhood or meet people and have the photo album on her. It's
wow.
like the old school version of your portfolio site or Instagram.
Right. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So she would always get me art supplies and encourage me in books and all different kinds of things to help me learn and find out what kinds of art I liked. She didn't force me to learn stained glass or anything like that. She just said, create whatever you want to create. And it was very encouraging.
I love that. Did she do work in like churches and things like that?
It was mostly residential.
Okay.
Yeah. She wasn't the primary moneymaker in the family. It was my grandfather, and she was a stay-at-home mom when she became a mother. Gotcha. And she had a different job before she became a mother, but then after she became a mother and she was looking for work to do, things to keep herself busy, she got into stained glass, and then it turned into a career for her, like for the last 20 years of her life. Yeah.
So when did you start sort of taking your art, to heart?
What do you mean, take it to heart?
Like taking it seriously, like saying, like, look, this is, I guess maybe even before you started, even went to school or something. Like when did it click for you that like, oh, this is my jam?
Now that I think about it, I think it was when I did a black and white film photography class in high school. And I just really started to respect craft and artistry as a career at that point, because the teacher was a full-time photographer, and then he got into teaching later in his life, and it was like my first exposure to somebody who had a whole career in art over the course of their life. Like I said, my grandmother only did it in her later years.
Right.
So it was that class, and then the other classes that I took in those like junior, senior year of high school. It's sort of like when you're starting to get pressure of what are you going to study in college,
Sure.
Eric?
Yeah.
What are you going to be when you want to grow up? And I didn't really know. I just knew I was really good at this thing, at drawing and at making things, and I was a curious person about that. And I guess I was also good at science and math, but I couldn't see myself becoming a scientist or studying engineering or something like that.
Sure.
So as soon as I started getting that pressure and also being surrounded by professional artists.
Got it. And you started surrounding yourself by around professional artists like in college or later?
Well, it was that one teacher that I had in high school, the black and white photography teacher. Then I took a graphic design class in high school, which was only like one day a week for one semester. But I learned how to use Photoshop, and the teacher of that was an adjunct. He taught one day a week just graphic design.
Got it.
So he was a professional graphic designer, and I think at that time there was just more being shared online, so you could actually read these blogs and find out about all different kinds of artists around the world. Whereas like before that, it was mostly magazines and books that I was learning about artists.
Got it. One of the things that I love, I went to college, I got a degree in English literature, but there was a time where I had a great art teacher who was very encouraging. I wasn't great, but I loved it. I loved the process of it. It was very, for me, it hit at the right time in my life where it was just tremendously therapeutic to just be in that studio and to paint or to draw or do whatever. And she was just so supportive. Like for you, has creating art, especially like early on in your life, has it been therapeutic in that way? Has it been sort of like this activity that has sort of brought you peace and helped you in your life?
It's funny because you can go through a whole roller coaster of emotions in one art project. So yes, it can bring me peace and it can bring me joy, but it can also be a huge source of frustration and stress if there's a deadline, or if you just can't seem to make anything that you're enjoying. You lost your groove. That's happened to me plenty of times. And so the answer is yes, it has been a source of like a therapeutic activity for me, but it's also been the opposite at times. Sure.
Which is, I guess, a great microcosm for just living, right? It's both simultaneously. It's the ups and the downs.
Yeah. I've heard it said before that it's the job of the artist to go through the difficult inner work that most people don't want to do, and then to express it in a way that makes other people feel understood and seen.
I love that.
And I love that too. It's like, I think that's so true, because for us artists to get to put things on paper and to create things that help other people identify what's happening inside them or what they're going through, I feel like that's like such power. You can do so much with that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And there's just so much power in knowing yourself and understanding what lights you up, what frustrates you, all of it. Just the more knowledge we have about how we interact in the world as humans, I think the better we're prepared for, future scenarios, and the better we are, to create, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Self-awareness, name of the game.
So what have you, in your sort of art, what have you learned about yourself? Have you, in that sort of self-awareness journey, in that sort of doing that inner work, as you called it, like what have you learned about yourself personally?
First thing that comes to mind is that I've learned that I'm a pretty impatient person.
Mm.
I've purposefully developed a style these last couple years that is very fast, and it's because I don't want to be spending 1 week on the same piece of art, let alone 1 month or even longer.
Mm.
There are some artists that their masterpieces are made over the course of years. But for me, that's not the route that I want to go. I like being able to draw now without even sketching. I just make art without even planning it. It's like a improvisational technique.
Sure.
So that's one thing that I've learned about myself. One thing I didn't mention is that I'm partially colorblind. So I can't see certain colors. And it doesn't impact me that much in day-to-day life because it's only the desaturated colors that I can't see. It's like I bought a pair of pants before thinking it was black, but it was actually dark blue. And same thing happens on the lighter end of the spectrum where I thought it was white, but it was actually a light green or something.
Oh, I see.
And it depends on the lighting. It depends on a couple of different factors. So it's not that intense, but I've learned that I do gravitate towards extremes. So with the colors that I choose in my artwork, that's just an example of how I use extremes. I like black and white, the contrast. I like really saturated colors because those are the ones that I can see. And so that's sort of a metaphor for my personality is I thrive on the roller coaster. If I had a life that was really a flat line, kind of the same routine every day, I really have trouble making a routine out of almost anything. That's actually a stereotype that artists get all the time. Like artists can't keep a routine, or like they can't even wake up early or get stuff done. I don't think I'm that bad, but I think whenever I try to regiment myself, I end up outsmarting myself by accident and just being spontaneous. You know, it could take all the scheduling and prioritization in the world, but a lot of times I have to, when I have an idea, I need to work on that thing.
Right. I admire that personally. I think there's probably drawbacks to that mode of living at times, but for me, when I've been able to operate in that way, and I do like a bit of chaos, I think there's presence and mindfulness in that, like I'm thinking like your artistic style, like just showing up and just creating your thing without sort of sketching it out, without really kind of thinking about it. Like I think you have to be very kind of centered and mindful, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you also have to be, I do compare it to other sports sometimes. I guess art isn't a sport, but I compare it to sports sometimes. Like when you think about the basketball player that is working on their foul shot, they show up and they practice, they repeat the same motions over and over. And I think the only way I can improvise is by having sort of a system that I've created for myself and some muscle memory. Whenever I start a new sketchbook or even sometimes a new drawing, I usually doodle the same thing in the corner. Or I write a word in the corner just to so that there's not a blank page. And that's just part of my system, even though that doesn't sound very spontaneous, but I think those ground rules that I set enable the spontaneity to happen pretty quickly right after that.
Sure. They're like the touchstones to your creative process. Yeah.
Or the beginnings of my process. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. So the work you're doing, tell me a little bit about you said earlier, like, you want to work with the type of companies that, like align with like your vision and your sort of artistic style. Like what companies are those, and what are you looking for, like on like a, I don't know, philosophical level? Like what are you looking for in these companies, in the people behind them, to connect with them and make that sort of relationship?
Ooh, that's a really big question, but I'll try my best.
Sure.
So the first thing is really just a gut feeling. Whenever I get an inquiry from a company and then I start looking into what they're all about and what they do for whatever their business model is, if there's something that is a red flag to me, like let's say, it seems that they are using very wasteful materials to create their products. If it's a company that makes physical products, that's one thing that I care about. I care about the planet.
Yeah.
So I would ask them and openly say, like, I'd love to do something for you guys, but I'd love to have a phone call and just like chat about your goals and your business. I think there's too many of us graphic designers and artists that are just willing to take anything that comes our way, and that's a vicious cycle. And breaking out of that is something that I've worked really hard to do these last few years, and I've sacrificed a lot. And part of that means working a full-time job, which I still have today. So luckily it's for a company that I really believe in. So I'll talk a little bit about that company in a minute.
Sure.
But the kinds of companies that I like to work with, a lot of them care not just about the profit, but also about the people. It's, called like a triple bottom line, where it's like people, profit, and planet. So it's not just an assembly line of making things to make money.
Right.
It needs to, for me, I love when it goes a step deeper than that. And I really commend entrepreneurs and founders that can create that and also make it sustainable, because it is not easy.
No, it's not.
So I do work with companies that are not triple bottom line, but that's my ideal.
Yeah. Right.
Because it just feels like I'm really making a difference with my art,
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
just helping this company survive.
Right.
Yeah. So the company that I've been working for now for a little over 3 years is called WeWork. And some of you might have heard of this company because they've gotten pretty large over the last, I got to see their growth in the last few years, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, they're huge. They're like all over the world now.
Yeah. When I started, it was mainly in the United States and a couple other cities outside. And yeah, I always struggle to give like the whole pitch of what the company's all about, because I'm sure I'm going to say something wrong.
Sure, I get it.
But it's really all about creativity and community. So it's a platform for creators is what they call it. It's not just a co-working space, even though that's what a lot of people call it. It's physical space that you can rent out month by month or longer, instead of having a regular office. But it's also about the communities that are built in these spaces. It's about all the things that they offer surrounding the membership, and it's a really amazing thing that they've built. And what was I going to say? Yeah, so I started 3 years ago working in New York with them on the art and graphics team. So we do all the art that exists inside the physical spaces, and we collaborate with interior designers and architects and all kinds of different specialists to create these spaces. And then about 2 years ago, they were expanding into Latin America, and they needed somebody to go down there and build the team of graphic designers. And surprisingly, nobody else volunteered. So I got to go on this awesome 1.5 year long adventure in South America. And I feel like I just got back, even though it's been almost a year.
That's incredible.
And so, yeah, we opened up a bunch of spaces down there and built a team of designers. And I didn't expect to enjoy being in a manager type role. I still had time to design and create stuff, but mainly they sent me down there so that I could build the team.
Sure.
And I was sacrificing some of my design time in exchange to get to travel and see places. And I'm really glad that I did it. Now I'm in a different role where I'm not a manager anymore. I'm back to being senior designer. So I have a little more time to design now.
Nice.
But I still do a lot of freelance projects. I still keep myself busy outside of WeWork. And like I just launched these new screen prints today. Nobody asked me to do that. I just felt like making some screen prints and selling them on my site.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that it's like I think the header sort of headline on your site, Eric, is this idea that art can bring people together, right? What is
Exactly.
that? What does that look like for you? Like, when you say that, what do you mean by that?
Okay, well, perfect example would be the work I did in South America. So imagine a young white guy like me going down and making art in some of these cities. I don't want to just copy and paste my culture and put it on the walls and make art that would be cool in the United States and just assume that it would be cool everywhere and that everyone would love it, right? I'm very sensitive to the cultures and the biases that people have. So a lot of my work is actually research and finding out what are the things that people appreciate about this culture. What are the things that make, I don't know, Buenos Aires, Argentina unique, and what are people proud of? And then working that into the artwork in a subtle way that isn't super obvious. You wouldn't want to put a photo of the Statue of Liberty in a WeWork in New York necessarily, because it's just so predictable and obvious and cheesy. But what are the things that are a little bit more like you have to be a local to understand it? So we did a lot of that kind of artwork together as a team, and that's the kind of stuff that brings people together. Is it creates a conversation, it creates something that people want to share, even take photos in front of the artwork, because sometimes it's immersive art pieces too. It's these large scale murals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the most impactful work because it changes the whole space and it changes the vibe and how you feel in the space and interact with it. So that's kind of what I mean by how art can bring people together. It's pretty literal, but it can also be about maybe an example of outside of WeWork. I think in the skateboarding world, there's all these brands out there that are making clothing and that are making accessories, whatever. And when you see somebody else on the street that's wearing the same brand that you're wearing, there's an instant connection there. And it's like, oh, okay, that person knows about this, like this cool brand that I just found out about this year. And I think that the same thing can be done with art. Oh my God, you follow that artist, like you instantly feel a connection with that.
Yeah, no, I see that. And the murals you're referring to and you've done are giant, these large scale pieces that are, you see it and it's a huge impact, right? It's like visually like, whoa, I'm here. I'm like, I gotta take this in, and talk to my friends about it. And I get it. The thing that really struck me about what you said just a moment ago is going into Buenos Aires or other parts of the world and doing the research and using parts of their culture in the work itself. Like, I think that is so beautiful because one of the things I say on the show a lot is, and what empathy is all about is about meeting people where they are and about sincerely trying to understand them and see them for who they are. And that takes, sometimes adopting some of their language, right? And that's exactly, I think, what you're doing with the art is you're meeting people where they are because you have this talent, this skill, this language in your murals and your art, and you can meet people through your art in that way. And I think that's awesome. That's amazing. I love it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I did want to add that sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes we try to meet people where they are and we try to do the research and then we find out, oh, actually wherever we got that idea from actually wasn't a great source and people didn't relate with this art and now they're complaining about it. That's actually happened before.
Yeah.
Even if the colors are too bright, like people don't like to work in a space or stay in a space where the space feels claustrophobic or too vibrant because you can't focus on anything else but the color everywhere,
Yeah.
So a lot of it is about balancing the impactful moments with some quieter, more simple things, even if it's just a framed photograph of a nearby place that people like to go.
Wow.
And something familiar.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. So you're working with these big companies. Tell me about the day job that you have.
That's the WeWork, man. That's the
WeWork.
Yeah.
Okay. WeWork is the day job. Got it. Because you're senior designer. That's right. Yeah. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
the team, I want to say one more thing about it because like it's so like people don't really see this side of WeWork because it's not written about as much as all the other stuff. When I started, it was about 8 of us, the art and graphics team, doing all the different locations, and now 3.5 years later, it's over 70.
Whoa.
So I don't know about you, but I don't know any company in the world that employs that many artists. I mean, we're graphic designers, but we're also illustrators and artists. And it's like, what company hires illustrators full time? Most of them use freelancers for illustration. Sure. And I think that it's cool to see a company, and I hope that this continues to be a trend in our in a lot of different industries, like the tech industry is a great example. where they hire artists full time, because some people don't want to do the freelance route and they would prefer to, be on a team of artists. And I think it's just so cool to see them grow from 8 to 70
Yeah.
in
Wow.
3 years. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. The only like industry I can think of maybe that would sort of have full-time like artists is, like Weta or something, like the digital sort of animation company in New Zealand that did all like the Lord of the Rings stuff. But I also heard that maybe they weren't paying their artists great, so maybe that's not a good example.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's like, how do you put a price on it? If you look at the canvases because we don't just do murals, we do a lot of canvases too. If you look at the cost of a canvas in a gallery, it's like thousands and thousands of dollars sometimes. If it's really big and it's really well-known artists, it's like, if you take the work that we're making and you put it in galleries, we could probably make more money from it. But somebody's got to do all that work to, market it. And I think that's not every artist wants to do that. So it's cool that some companies are employing artists full time.
Right.
I feel like I had something else to say. What were we talking about before you mentioned that company in Australia?
Oh, just that. Gosh, I have the memory of a goldfish, Eric.
No worries. We can move on.
I don't know. Well, maybe
I
it'll come.
remember what I was going to say.
Oh, perfect.
It was about the idea of a day job, because like I very rarely call it a day job, because like even just that word has a connotation of like being a soul-sucking day job.
Sure it does, yeah.
I don't consider it a day job in that sense of the word. It's a job, yeah. Like I get paid to do this work, and I work a relatively normal schedule, 9:30 to 6 or so. Sometimes there's longer hours. Sometimes I work the weekends if we're opening up a space on a Monday. And but it's not. I don't go to the same office every single day. We travel quite a bit, and sometimes we're behind a computer designing at a desk, and then some other times we're on a ladder painting a mural. So it's not a regular office job in that way at all.
Yeah. No, I couldn't imagine it being.
I don't think I'm wired for that type of job anyway. Honestly,
No.
I don't think I'll ever. Yeah.
No, I so that my, big boss is Pat Flynn, and I've had a string of, I've always been sort of a writer editor for most of my career, and I've had terrible jobs, and I've always sort of lasted maybe a year, sometimes 2 max, and working with Pat now and Matt and our team has been like the longest sort of job that I've had, because flexibility, but most of all, it's the people. And when you talk about, Eric, like wanting to work with people who care about the planet and who care about others, and want to make a difference in the world in that way, and are mindful of others and have empathy, like that's who I want to work with too.
Yeah, definitely get that vibe from your team with Pat.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you found that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. So tell me about some of the, like, I read on your website that you do workshops. Tell me about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I got into my first niche after finishing graphic design school, because what happens is you graduate with a portfolio full of all these random things that don't really relate to each other, because they give you one class about websites and one class about packaging and one class about everything. So my first niche that I kind of focused on was typography and lettering. So once I feel like I had enough years of experience going down that path, and I loved it. I loved focusing and calling myself a lettering artist and getting into that community and meeting so many other cool people through that. I think that's how I started to grow my audience in the beginning too, was through niching down into lettering and type. So I started to offer these workshops that would be either a 3-hour workshop, which can't really get that much work done, but it's a lot of like theory and technical teaching, and then I give people resources to go and practice at home. But I prefer the 6-hour one that I do, and that's like where I would either go into a company or a school, or even something that I launched to the public and I just reserved a space. I've used WeWork a few times for those. And I just get everybody in a room. There's no computers. It's just paper and pencil and Sharpies and stuff. And we just go crazy having fun, like everyone gets to walk away with their own piece, even if it's not completely finished. So that was my first kind of workshop that I did, was the lettering. Then I did a different workshop about drawing on skateboards, which was really fun.
That's awesome.
I've only done 2 of those. I'd like to do another one maybe at the end of this year or early next year. And then I also did a workshop about murals this year for the first time. So I try to do one every 3 months or so, just to keep myself entertained, I suppose. And people ask for them, and I love sharing my gift. And if people want to come out for it, it's always a really, really great time. And something interesting that I learned through the workshops is that if I'm going to charge money for them, which, for the time and all the supplies and everything, I really should be charging. If you're doing free workshops, it's like it can be great in the beginning, but after a while, just like we said before, like everything can kind of turn into a job in some way.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you're going to be doing workshops, it really helps to be teaching something that other people can actually monetize themselves. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time charging more than $50 for the workshop. If $50 is enough for your time, like that's fine. $50 per person, that is. And I usually don't like to work with more than a few people because it's like you can't go deep on a topic.
Yeah.
Because with the skateboard workshop, it's like how many people do you see being a full-time skateboard artist? Not that many. It's very much like the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know anybody who just draws on skateboards, but I do know a lot of people that are professional lettering artists and professional mural artists. So those classes actually sold a lot better because they were things that people were willing to invest a decent amount of money for. Whereas the skateboard ones, it's like, yeah, that's cool and fun, but that's a hobby.
Sure. Yeah.
Not saying that hobby type workshops are wrong or bad in any way. It's just like I had trouble selling them. So
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Because you got to pay for all the supplies. It's not just your time.
Right. Yeah.
Or it could be bring your own supplies. I haven't tried that before. I like to make it really easy. Just show up and I'll provide everything for you.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I think it's really neat that you do that. I'm actually developing a business idea right now, and workshops will be sort of a core part of the business. And I've just been kind of thinking about, how I would do them and, how I would sort of deliver them, virtually initially and then in person, eventually. And I don't know. I just think they're interesting. I've always enjoyed the concept of like taking your skill and, teaching others and showing others how to maybe adopt that same skill. I think that's admirable.
Yeah. I didn't mention, but my mom's a teacher as well. So I've always had that influence on me. And I feel like I am a pretty clear combination of my parents and my grandmother. My mom's a teacher, my dad's in finance and business, and like my grandmother was an artist. So really I sucked up as much knowledge as I could from them, and I still continue to do that. And I just I do love sharing and like teaching things, even if it's not in person. It can be through my blog or a video or a podcast or something. I want to do more resources like that online because not everybody can make it out to your in-person workshop just because of geographical, distance. But I haven't done an online class yet or an online workshop. It's in the cards for probably next year.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing it. Do you ever, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but like, as you were talking about like your parents and sort of you're a perfect combination of your parents and your grandmother, do you ever, or have you ever had the pull to like, because there's this, me being like not an artist and not in that world, you hear and you have this maybe false perception that like, you have to be this starving artist, right? Like there's this I don't know if it's a stigma or, just a lie or whatever, I don't know how you would interpret it, but like this starving artist sort of perception that people have about working as an artist for a living. Like what, have you ever battled with that? Do you ever struggle with that at all? Like what is your perception of that?
I think early on I did struggle with that, with the starving artist mentality. Mm-hmm. One of my first jobs that I got out of school was working at a company that was owned by MTV. And I felt like kind of a sellout for doing that because I wasn't a big MTV fan. And it was just felt like, it felt very like I was doing it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh no, but like, is this okay that I'm just doing this for the money? Of course it's fine. Like you have to survive. You have to pay your bills. And when you're starting out, I didn't have a big audience following my work. Like people weren't hitting me up for freelance work, and I didn't have a different job at that time. So
Right.
it's fine to take jobs for the money. And if you're still an artist, like you can still call yourself an artist. There's not like some secret society that gets to deem who's an artist and who's not an artist. But in recent years, I just don't even let that mentality into my vocabulary, into my day to day, because it's so toxic.
Yeah.
And if you hang out with people who think like that, that's how you're going to think, and I just don't really associate. I don't even follow people online who think like that.
Yeah. I get it. And I appreciate that. It to me, it does seem, like there's an aspect of it that's rooted in this, like limiting, like it's almost like this limited space, like, and to me that's not, there's no room for growth there. Like there's no room for anything, but then like, this is who I am and that's who I'm going to be. And there's no, persuading that, there's no changing that. And I think that's any of us, if we do that to ourselves, when it comes to like a certain identifier, I think that's problematic.
Yeah, and I think it's really undervaluing what you have to offer the world. If you're saying this is my art, you can have it for free because I don't know how to charge money for my work. I feel like I'm selling out if I charge you money for my work.
Totally.
Or yeah, and a lot of artists they rely on only one type of income. Like I sell prints of my work, or I do client work, commissions, stuff like that. But I think the way that you can get out of that starving artist cycle, because it's hard. It's like sometimes you fall into it by accident, right?
Sure.
If you have a tough financial season, or if you got laid off from your job or something, it can happen, and then you end up making decisions just for the money over and over and over, and then it does kind of rule you if it's not working out. So one way you can avoid that is by at least just like letting these other influences into your life outside of the art world. As soon as I started listening to podcasts about entrepreneurship and business, yes, I felt like a little bit slimy and weird when I started doing it. But you don't have to listen to everything they say. You can just take out the gold nuggets that relate to your situation and ignore the rest if you want.
Yeah.
So learning how to say, okay, I'm going to make money from client work, from workshops, and from products. That's going to be my way to avoid becoming a starving artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that. Let's start wrapping up here. I know you don't have too much time, but I did get one question from my friend Bryn, who's at Brave Bryn Studio on Instagram. She says, "I want to know the story behind all his figures, where they came from, and what inspires him." I guess that's maybe two questions.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Bryn, for the good question. Well, let's see. My figure that she's talking about is I call it a blob because I couldn't think of a better name, and I think blob is pretty fitting. But it came out of when I moved down to Argentina a couple of years ago, and I was looking for a style that I could do quickly. Like I said, I was looking for some kind of repeatable motif that felt unique to me, and it just took me a while to develop it. And then two, it actually came out of a season where I was pretty sad and I was missing home. I was in a long distance relationship at the time, and I had some days where I just felt like I shouldn't be there. I should be back home or back in the States. And my Spanish wasn't very good, so I would spend these days just like my brain would explode before 2 p.m. I was just trying to speak Spanish all day and trying my best to understand what was happening around me and the context. And I think the first drawing of the blob that was recognizable as to what it is today was I drew that in like when I was in my bed, like kind of curled up in a ball and very sad, which you wouldn't expect, because if you look at it today, if you look at it now, it looks very fun and happy, and the colors I use they don't look sad at all.
Right.
But that's the story of where it came from, and I didn't think much of it when I first drew it. It definitely didn't come out of nowhere. There were some drawings that I did a while ago that had some elements of it, like the geometry of it, or I had this other character that I used to draw that had more features, like it was wearing a hat. But that's the story. Yeah.
I love that. And what this second question is, like, what inspires you, and maybe who inspires you?
Yes. So I'd say my two biggest influences as far as artists, visual artists, would be like Keith Haring and MC Escher.
Oh yeah.
I had this one professor in college that told me he wanted to do what MC Escher did, but do it with letters. And I thought that was such a cool idea of like taking some other artist's philosophy that really resonates with you, but doing it in your own way. So those are the two artists that really inspire me, but also just, this is so like cliche and everything, but everyday life inspires me. It's not hard for me to find inspiration. And I think going to school for design and really studying the process of some of these people who came before me is what opened my eyes to where you can find inspiration in daily life. Like I also did a minor in product design, so I was starting to like study how simple things that we use and touch every day are actually, there's this whole world behind the way that we interact with the world. You know what I mean? It's like there's this unseen world. I feel like as a designer, I can see things that people can't. Mm-hmm. So even just like traveling and looking at signage or looking at the way the city was laid out and that kind of stuff really inspires me.
Got it. I love that.
And nature too. And nature, like I just got back from a trip to Pacific Northwest, my first time out there, and it makes me feel like I want to live somewhere closer to nature in the future. Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's start wrapping it up. We always wrap up the show talking about our empathy heroes. This is the part of the show, listeners, where my guests and I each mention someone in our lives, could be even a character from a book or, just an inspiration in our lives, someone who's just a great empathetic human. So I will go first to give Eric a moment to think on his empathy hero. My empathy hero this week is my good friend Alex Carroll, who reached out to me like last week, and she knows I've been working on this business sort of idea, and she's like, "Hey, I have a friend who's kind of not working right now, and I talked to her, and she would like maybe love to help you out, like organize or do whatever." And the relationship with a friend hasn't worked out yet so far, but it was just a nice sort of thing. My friend thought of me, thinking of me doing this thing, and she reached out to her friend and reached out to me, and it was just it was very sweet and thoughtful. And so Alex, my friend, is my empathy hero this week.
That was nice, man.
Yeah.
My empathy hero is my brother Josh. My brother Josh is 2.5 years older than me, and he lives in Florida, so I don't get to see him that much. But I talk to him every single week, and he's always looking out for me, just like your friend. And I'm really grateful that I have gotten to see him a few times this year already, and I'm just really grateful for that relationship in general, because not everybody is close with their siblings.
Right.
And I feel like we have this unbreakable bond that we'll always have. And so this week, my empathy hero is Josh Friedensohn.
Awesome. Well, Eric, where can the Feely humans out there connect with you, follow your work, sign up for your workshops, all of that stuff?
Well, I hang out at this one donut shop all the time. No, I'm just kidding. You can check out my work on Instagram at efdot. So it's EFDOT, keeping short and sweet. And my website, if you want to check out the rest of my work or see what I have available in my shop, then it's efdotstudio.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about your art and your heart and all that stuff. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for inviting me on. It was really, really good chatting. And we got to catch up again soon.
Absolutely. And to you listeners, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring Pale Blue Dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.